Hello everyone, this is Johannes.
And this is Selva.
And you are watching Board Gaming Ramblings.
And today we are taking a look at Men-Nefer.
In Men-Nefer, you are traveling back to ancient Egypt so that you can move on tracks and do Euro stuff in all of its glory to get the most victory points, because the player with the most victory points is gonna be, you guessed it, the winner of the game. Men-Nefer is a worker placement-ish game, action selection-ish game, tile selection, action selections, all of these things together to try to get points. We're going to do a brief overview before we go into the game. The game is going to last over 3 eras. Each era is going to be, you're going to do 9 different actions, and there's 3 different actions in those actions, and in those 3 actions, the different actions to choose from. It sounds complicated, it actually not. One thing you can do is to place one of your workers. You're going to place it on a space. If there is people there already, you will have to pay fish. Then you are going to do the action that is on the tile adjacent to the worker that you placed and discard that tile. The other thing you can do is take a new tile. You'll then have to get or pay fish to take a tile you want to place it so you can use it next round. And then you will choose one of the actions adjacent to that tile that you chose. The third thing you can do is to move your dude, and then again pay fish if there is other people there. Then you will move on the track and be able to do the action underneath your token or anywhere to the left. After you have done that, you will be able to do it 9 times, because you will place 3, you will take 3, and you will move 3. When everybody has done that, basically has 3 tiles with no tiles under them or dudes under them, you will then do final scoring, or round scoring, because there is no final scoring in the game. You are going to move on these tracks to try to get less negative points, and in the beginning you're going to lose points, and when these 2 tracks go the other way around, you will start to get points. You will score points for contracts you have made. You will score contracts depending on where you have placed your sarcophagus into the catacombs. You will score points depending on how far you moved on another track, and you will score points depending on how far you moved on this track. And you also score points depending if you have placed some of these into the Queen's pyramids to score points for different things in the game. That is what you're doing. After you've done that 3 times, the player who has the most points is the winner. Before we go into anything else, I just want to say that this player board is not supposed to be playing on the board, so we are hiding some things of the board, but hopefully you will see it in pictures. With that said, that is the game. Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about how you do the actions first. You have 27 actions in the game. 3 per era, 3 eras, 27 math.
Yes.
And I like the system of the actions. I think it's really interesting the timing that you do your actions in, because at the beginning of an era, all your 3 dudes are here, so you have to start by placing dudes here and activating the tile. Then you have choices suddenly. Do you want to activate the specific action at once, or do you want to reserve a specific tile for next round that you really need to? And this really depends on how the other players are playing, how the order that you want to do the actions in.
I will say that this part of the game is the main crunch and what makes the game good. As with many other games, like this is like the engine of the game, and then you have all the mini games that are kind of there to make this make sense.
Yes.
Because as we talked about in many games this year, it would be boring to just do this cool action system and not have any actions to do. So I will say that this is the crux of the game, kind of moving up and getting better at actions you have done. We've seen that before. But not in this way where you basically like reserve a spot, then you move over, and the timing is very interesting. I will say that the most coolest part of the game, which makes it so that it's not only the action tracks that you focus on, are these tiles.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And it makes you kind of focus on some things. For example, in this case, you can make one of the mummies available. Then you don't have to spend actions in this this part to make them available. You can go for just placing them out, which feels very powerful.
It is basically a lot of choices here.
Yes.
And most of the choices is going to be there. Some games I played, I have only moved on 2 tracks. Other I moved on 4. I haven't like gone on all of them in a game, because you're getting better at the actions. You're doing more. You're trying to not like spread yourself too thin. But because of this really cool system, and sometimes you really want to take a tile because it did the bonus, the actions over there. And you're kind of like, okay, this isn't actually the one I want, but I really need to move that swings now so that I can later place it out. But also, there's symbols here that lets you move on your specific symbol track on your, which is like gives you some points. It is fine. You're gonna get like 80 points, something like that. So 1 point is not gonna win you the game, but 2 spaces is gonna let you move on the track. So you get to boost your track. So trying to get this at least a little bit is very important. So there's so many reasons for the choices, and adding in then, as you said, the player interaction of, okay, you place there now, I also really want to place there. Should I then wait till you move over there so it's going to be cheaper for me? Or should I go in there and hope you don't move over so I can move over and make it more expensive for you? And all of those timing is what makes the game cool. The game also has no final scoring.
That's true, and I think that's really cool. So the points, if I at the beginning of the turn, move this up, to do an action that lets me move this up on this track.
Yeah.
That will not give me 2 points. If I do this in the first era, it will actually net me 6 points.
Because you score everything all the rounds. So all the points you get in the first round is basically triple.
Yes.
Which is very interesting because like the contracts, for example, the first contracts you get would probably be like a 1 point contract, which is, if you get a 3 point contract in the second round, it's going to be 6 points.
Yes.
But if you get in the third round, it's the same as a 1 point contract in the first round. And this is very interesting because sometimes you're going to be like, okay, I don't really want to focus on moving on the obelisk, but I'm in a position of if I just move one, that's going to net me 6 points.
That's a lot of points.
And I get the other bonus I want as well, but like just moving there is 6 points. And when you end up with like 8, between 70 and 90 points, 6 points is quite a big deal of that. Over here, there's going to be, you're going to score for the intersection. So if I move and I place over here, that's going to be 4 points. And placing that out might be okay. But like 12 points is a quite hefty point sum.
Yes.
So it's like you are making so many choices, both depending on what you actually want to do in the game, but also because you're just like, okay, 2 points now is actually 6 points. So that is very interesting. Some of the routes feels better than others, to me at least.
Yeah, I feel like all the minigames, because there's a lot of minigames here. I think they work well together. Yes. I think that you will focus on some, but you're going to dip into most of them during a game. And I think they're fun, all of them. But some feel a little more accessible than others.
And I think this game does this minigame better than many other games.
Yes.
Because as I said,
I agree.
like the swings is only a support action. It helps you with other minigames.
Yes.
And doesn't really score your points.
Well, a little bit, but for example, here you can go up on this track, but
they don't score points. Like most
you work
other,
together with
the other things
other stuff
in the game scores your points. The swings doesn't score your points. It's only a support action, and these gives you some abilities. We haven't gone heavy for this because like getting these 4 out might score your points. Like getting 1 out in the first round.
These ones?
Yes.
The first time I played, I got all of them out.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
But you will score a lot of points from that as well. But I haven't like. I feel like it's simpler to move on the tracks. Like moving on this, getting some points, moving on this, but then you have to do other things. So everything is kind of layered. One thing I will say, and I know people on BGG already disagree with this, is that I feel like this is kind of hard to go for, depending of course on the scoring that comes out, but it feels like counterintuitive to get this. But the game kind of tells you it's very good. Because it's kind of hard to do. How does this work?
You have to first make one of these available. There is multiple ways to do this. For example, some of these does it. Going up on this track does it. So you have to have it available. Then you have to do some building actions to advance on this. Then you can put this out on a pyramid. That is basically end of round scoring. Works the same way as everything else. And it will give you points depending on the criteria that it says here. And the beginning, it doesn't feel very rewarding because if you do this first round, you will not have done a lot of the other stuff, probably. So these, for example, 2 points feels more accessible. I don't feel like the game is unbalanced at all. But sometimes it feels like a little easier just to move up on a track than to do all the stuff.
It feels for me very easy to just ignore this part of the game. Because, like, bumping my way up to 10 or 14 points in this one, for example, in the second round, and then up there, it's going to net me like 24 or 30 points. Going here, let's say I place 2 of these in the first round. I use actions to place that, it's going to score me 2 points.
I will argue that I think that each and every single part of these mini games, you can easily ignore one part, and you can still win the game. I don't feel like you should be like, I'm not doing this, and when an amazing opportunity presents itself, ignore it completely, because even though you have just like ignored one track, you can still score some points if you are presented the opportunity. But I feel like every single way that you will play this game, you have ways to score points. So I feel like, okay, you can ignore this part if you want to, but there's also a lot of points to be had here if you go for it.
Yeah, for me, depending, of course, because some of them are very capped. Like this one is going to score, these two are probably the best ones, because it's easier to get a lot of these than to get like all of your contracts.
This is very capped, yeah.
Yeah, and this one, it gives you maximum of 4, and if a point per swings is maximum of 4.
But I think it's cool though, because last time we played, I placed 2 of those just like at the end of the round, because I've gone for one of the scorings here. I didn't get points during the game, but the ending game I got like 10 points. That 1/8 of my points.
So it's kind of feels like a more of a final scoring thing than more of a build-up thing.
Yeah, I feel so.
But it's for my tastes, which was my only point, the weakest point of the game. So, what do you feel about the length of this game? Because this is a longer game, not that long. I would say we played 2 players in about 90 minutes, 3 players in about 2.5.
It is a long game, but it doesn't feel long because you don't sit and wait a lot on the other players. You could have some AP, but the reason it has taken that time is because it's a lot of stuff to do. When I place over here, it's moving this and doing the stuff. You might get some, for example, if I place in here, you can also activate these actions. So there's a lot of things to do, and there's it's not a lot of setup in this game, but many small pieces.
Yeah, but it's not a combo heavy game.
No.
Like you will get maybe a couple of bonus things, but mostly like, oh, I can move an extra step, or I can move a step over there.
The turns are pretty snappy.
It's not like I'm doing this action gives me this action gives me this action. Let's say I have this. I will place my dudes somewhere, I will move 3 spaces with my ships, I will activate my ship 1 time, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's very smooth and fast flowing, you're just doing a lot of things. How do you feel about the player count?
I felt like we played with 2 and 3 players, and I felt like both was good, but I think I like 3-player more, because you have more contracts available to you. For example, you have even more with 4 players though. And this, I really enjoyed the dynamic that's shifting with 3 players here when choosing your actions.
Because when you're playing with 2, you're going to have 4 of these. When playing with 3, you're going to have 3 of them, which are basically just dummies blocking your spaces. But with 3, you have 1 more living person actually moving things around. So who is this going to be for? If you love beige Euros, because there's a lot of beige, and there's also colors here, but if you like your beige Euros, you're going to like this. It has a bit of interaction, but not like a negative interaction. Do a lot of your own thing, but you have to look at what the other players are doing, especially here, and with the timing of taking the tiles. And if you enjoy games, you just get to do a lot.
Yes.
It's not like a game where you're just like, oh, you get to do nothing. You just get to do a lot of things in this.
It feels kind of like a point salad. You don't score a lot of points during the game, but when you're done with an era, you get some points here and there, and they accumulate to a lot. And you get to do a lot of stuff without it feeling overwhelming, so you don't like lose track of what you got. And also you have to manage the fish, especially, and also if you want papyrus. We haven't talked about this, but it lets you move on the track if you match symbols and you get a lot of them. But fish, you also have to manage. It isn't a very punishing, very tight game, but you have to manage the resources to be able to do what you want.
I also have to say that this is surprisingly not that heavy. It is, you're doing a lot, but after you learn the rules, everything is crystal clear. Like every single symbol in this game is crystal clear. Like there's even, the only thing you might have to check the first time you play is the contracts. Because when you learn these symbols, you have learned every single symbol in the game except for the contracts. But I guessed all of them correctly when looking at them when we played the game.
Yes.
So they are very easy to understand, and when you check it once, you will never have to check it again. So it's super smooth and very simple to play once you learn the game. So let's do some final thoughts. Do you want to begin?
Yeah, I really like this game. I think the action selection system is really interesting. I like how the mini games feel. I like that you will focus on something one time you play it, and then next time maybe your starting tiles give you another direction, and you're always able to change directions if you want to.
Yeah.
For example, last time we played, I went heavy for this trading things, and then suddenly some of the things made these be available to be, and it's like, okay, maybe I can bump this up, make this track better, and then suddenly I can do a lot of stuff there without focusing a lot of energy on it, which was really cool. So I really enjoyed it, and I'm going to give this an 8.5.
I think Men-Nefer is a really good game. It might, for me, be the best game from this designer. Bitoku, we never loved that much. Sabika, we really like. It's still on the shelf. But I think this is, for me, his best design so
Absolutely.
far. I think it's super smooth. It's super clear. It's heavy, but not brain-burning, but very interesting decision space. And I just have fun. From the beginning to the end, I just have plain fun. And for me, that is like a very, very important thing in a board game. So for me, I love almost everything about this game. There's a couple of things I'm still unsure about how good this is. I want to play it more to find out. And I know people disagree, which is, I think, is awesome, which tells you that some people are just like, this is overpowered, and I feel like it's kind of the other way, which probably means like it's probably in the middle, like it should be. But I love this game. I think this game does so many cool things, especially this. Feels very fresh in a known way. Like it feels fresh, but still it has, it's not like overwhelming, it's not complicated, it's like, oh, this is very clever, and I love it, and I'm going to give it a 9.
Cool.
A fantastic game, and that is going to be the end of the video. Let us know in the comments what you think about the game, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe! Do it now! Thank you for watching. I'm Johannes.
I'm Sunniva.
And you've been watching Board Gaming Ramblings, and bye-bye.